Well, it was people from Special Collections, including Kate Crow, who came to me about a year ago with the idea that the new library, the new Academic Commons, would be hosting an exhibit, and the exhibit would be centered on maps. And that was very appealing for me, for obvious reasons, appealing to me for very obvious reasons. We began to cast about for a kind of theme that could shape the direction of the exhibit, and came across the idea of local to global. What we've done is to give some attention to early Colorado, the era even before Anglo migration as a result of the gold rush. And that theme continues through the development of what becomes Denver and Colorado, particularly the area that eventually becomes the site of the University of Denver. The 1848 Gilpin map is a particularly unique document. This is a map that, if you look at it, centers on the interior of the United States at a moment at which the nation hasn't even yet extended all the way to the Pacific. And yet, even though there's no Anglo migration or settlement in that area, William Gilpin, who became the first governor of the Colorado Territory, believes that this will become the heart of the nation as it develops, particularly through the Transcontinental Railroad, which is still several decades off. For that reason, the map is quite unique for paying attention to the interior of the country as opposed to the coasts, and for the time at which it's created, because it's not, it's a full decade before gold is discovered at the confluence of the Cherry Creek and the Platte River. Well, as most people know, gold is discovered at the confluence of the Cherry Creek and the Platte River in 1858 into 1859, and that leads to a rush of thousands of young men migrating to the area, what was then the far western edge of Kansas Territory. The Holmes map is unique because, for two reasons. First of all, it's one of the only maps to depict in a fairly accurate fashion the vast distance between eastern Kansas and western Kansas, the gold fields. Most gold rush maps of that period, of the Pikes Peak gold rush, represent that distance as far shorter and far more easily crossable as a way to encourage migrants to come west. So that's the first thing that's interesting. You also notice that it's one of the only maps to represent the Cheyenne and the Arapaho tribes, which were still very, very present in the far west of Kansas Territory. Most gold rush maps literally erase Native Americans from the area and take them off the map. And then finally, what's interesting to me about the map is if you look at the far eastern edge, you see the platted counties and the settlement. That gives you a sense, when it abruptly ends, of how far civilization, if you will, or Anglo settlement really is in the gold fields from eastern part of Kansas. And it's not long after this that Kansans decide to cut off the western edge of the territory, which eventually becomes the heart of the Colorado Territory. Well, the argument of mapping the nation is that the 19th century was a period of fundamental transformation for cartography and graphic knowledge generally. In this era, you begin to see maps not just representing the landscape in terms of topography or representing distances from A to B in location. In this period, you begin to see that maps are being used to organize information, to classify data, and to discover patterns. So what I've tried to do with the website is to represent those changes in different areas of American life through chapters. And in that respect, the website mimics the book. You see the rise of maps being used to represent history after the Revolution. You see the growth of maps representing environmental change, such as climate or rainfall, which become the basis of the study of meteorology. You see the rise of maps depicting census data. Some of the earliest maps of census data in the United States were maps that were trying to examine the distribution of slavery during the Civil War. And then after the Civil War, in the last chapter, you see the explosion of the use of statistical mapping to represent all aspects of the census, everything from the rise or fall of literacy to the distribution of wealth. And those are the maps that really lay the foundation for the explosion of cartography in the 20th century, and in our own era, the rise of geographic information systems. The homepage of the website represents the maps according to the chapters in the book, and that's fairly intuitive. But one idea that Aaron Field, the designer, had was to also give the viewer the opportunity to see the maps in different in different organizations. So for instance, there's a traditional search box, and given that all the maps are fully cataloged, you can search by map maker or date or subject matter. You can also choose to browse through the maps chronologically, which gives you a sense of changes that are happening across American culture in particular time periods. And you can choose to browse them according to map makers themselves, which brings up a list alphabetically of each map maker.